Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled. We have a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to start with some Chiefs news on what they're doing with the stadium. You heard Patrick Tuohy earlier today with Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio. Great stuff out of Patrick Tuohy, as always. We're going to talk a little college football playoff. We've got a clip I'm going to play of Stephen Miller a little bit later, who I believe is going to be Trump's number 2 guy, not J.D. Vance. Like the second most powerful man in America will be Stephen Miller. If you don't know who he is or what he's about, I've got a clip for you that if you haven't seen it or heard it, is going to blow you away. He is something else. And then a little bit later, we'll talk about 2 other people now on my train. I've been talking for months on my podcast about the fact that Joe Biden, when he went to pardon Hunter Biden, should also pardon Donald Trump. And now there is growing sentiment from people who are on the left saying this would be good for Joe Biden to do, that he should do it, make peace, and act as if these last few years never happened. The last 10 years never happened. We never messed with Trump. Look how nice we are. We pardoned this criminal for all of the bad things he did. Joe Biden is such a peacemaker. We had the peaceful, middle-of-the-road, moderate Joe Biden all those years in America turned on us, but look at who we are. They could spin it that way, and they may. We'll talk about the latest 2 to jump on that train in just a little bit. We start with the Kansas City Chiefs, who I have some podcast listeners that have been emailing me that are season ticket holders, and the Chiefs are doing these, they're focus groups is what they're calling them. They're not calling them listening sessions. They're focus groups, and I'm going to read for you an email here that I got from a gentleman who was there last night. Now, I have 3 or 4 others that emailed that said they were going last night, but I've not heard from them yet. So I don't know what their take is. This is the only respondent that got back to me for exactly what the experience was. So what the Chiefs are doing is they're grabbing up season ticket holders who sit in pretty fancy seats. They've either been with them for a long time, lower level, between the 30-yard lines kind of thing, or club level seats, or people that are suite holders who they probably meet with individually, not in bigger groups. Like if you're, let's say T-Mobile, and all the people that work for T-Mobile here, and I'm sure they've got a suite at Arrowhead or a big car dealership or something that has it. Those people will probably be contacted individually. Hey, what do you think? The Chiefs are basically acting like we want to ask our customers, should we renovate Arrowhead or build a new stadium? And so that's the reason they're doing this, as if this small number of people is going to change what the Chiefs are doing. I don't think it will. What transpired, according to this emailer, is going to surprise you a little bit, but I guess after reading it, I wouldn't have predicted it, but it doesn't surprise me after reading it. Full disclaimer, I don't know what the Chiefs are going to do. I know this, and I've had this stance from the very beginning. If the Kansas City Chiefs turn down 70% free financing for a brand new stadium in Kansas that could host the Super Bowl and the Final Four, they will be the first professional sports franchise in the history of the world, not Kansas City, not the NFL, in the history of the world to turn down a free deal like that. They could literally build hotels, golf courses, development around there. They could spend $5 billion. They could spend $8 billion, and the state of Kansas will pay for 70% of it free. Nobody's ever turned that down. So my stance has always been, if the Chiefs do it, prove it to me that you really want to stay at Arrowhead because your daddy built it or something like that. Great. If you want to renovate Arrowhead, knock yourself out. I think you're making a terrible financial decision, but the Chiefs make so much money, maybe they don't care. Maybe it's not about money, right? Have you ever heard of a professional sports franchise that it wasn't about money? I haven't, and I haven't seen one. So my money's on them building new in Kansas just because of the financing. So they go around to these Chiefs fan forums, and a gentleman, I didn't get confirmation back from him that I could use his name, so I'm not going to use his name. But he sent it to me, and he says, I participated in the Chiefs fan forum. There were 2 groups meeting at the same time. One was for a new stadium. That was the group I was in. The other group was for stadium renovation. In our group, we discussed good things about Arrowhead, how far we would drive to attend a game, does it matter if it's in Kansas or Missouri, and what kind of stadium, whether it's open, fully closed, a roof that opens and closes, or like SoFi in LA that has a cover but is open air. Then, this is the best. They spent a huge chunk of time, like a sales pitch, for club seating. We heard the dreaded term PSL, which is personal seat license. If you want to sit in the club level or the fancy seats, you have to pay an upfront cost per seat to help them finance the stadium. Now, this makes no sense, and he continues. I knew this was coming, he says, which I wouldn't have guessed. PSL would apparently help pay for construction of whatever it is that they do. I thought that's what the Star Bonds were for. Everyone in my group was not interested in club seats or PSLs, especially when they show us the estimated prices. Right now, I'm in the lower bowl at about the 20-yard line. My equivalent seat price-wise in the new stadium would be upper deck in the end zone. Plus, I would have to finance $3,000 per seat as a personal seat license. The average fan would be priced out of their seats, and the corporations would get the high-price seats. It's the same as every other new stadium built in the last 20 years, according to them. It was just an eye-opener to see it. And he says, I took some, they wouldn't let us have our cameras and take pictures, so I can't send you that. But if I have any questions, email him and talk to him. So the Chiefs turned their group listening session into a sales pitch for high-end seats. And they take some of their best customers and they scare them and say, if you're going to stay at this level, this is the new stadium group. If we build a new stadium, you're going to be sent up to the rafters for the same price in seats that you're sitting on the 15 or 20-yard line in the lower bowl right now. Now, I'm not smart enough to figure all this out, but that does sound like they're trying to basically say that Kansas City is too small and too poor to want to support a new stadium, which makes no sense if the state of Kansas is paying for 70% of it. That is not an ask. Asking Clark Hunt and his business people to come up with 30% for whatever they build is nothing. Plus, they would probably find some other financing, and the NFL has like 0% interest loans available. The owners put money into a pool for new facilities. You can borrow into the fund. It's basically borrowing from the other 31 league owners. 32 owners in the league would all put a certain number of dollars in. It works like a loan, and then the team gets to pay it back over time. These are like when they built the stadium in L.A., Clark Hunt had money in on that in this loan pool for the owners of the Rams to build their facility and pay it back. It's smart business. They want to keep their facilities up to date. They want to have revenue-generating club levels in all these stadiums, so the owners all work together on this. These are not organizations that need to charge PSLs. There is no need for the Chiefs to be freaking fans out that it's going to be too expensive to go to games. And let me state this loud and clear for anyone at One Arrowhead Drive that's listening today. There will be a time where you are 1-11, not 11-1. And if that's the hubris, you're walking into these meetings with these fans and browbeating them about PSLs, and you just don't want to build the new stadium, if it's about, you not putting in the 30% of $3 billion, you don't want to put that much money in, or whatever may be the case. If that's it, just be honest for once. Just come forward and say, we're too cheap to pay the 30% on a new building. We want to renovate Arrowhead again. The renderings I saw of renovating Arrowhead were like paint on the outside and some sort of walking bridge from the parking lot. That's it. That's all I saw. I don't know what they're going to do to Arrowhead. You're going to take all this money and put some sort of enclosure over the top or cover the fans or try to put heaters in places. I don't know what you're going to try to do. Clark Hunt, if what you want is to stay in your daddy's stadium, that's great. That's your call. You own the team. Just be honest about it and come forward and say, this is what I want to do, and let's work toward that. But it should also be noted that Clark Hunt is 10 times the owner his dad was. His dad didn't care about winning all that much. They were very good when they first got here, and they won a Super Bowl. He went most of his tenure after that not really worrying about winning. It was about making a profit, come in, get the sponsorships, make your money every year. He was like that. He was a businessman. He loved sports, but he was a businessman. I genuinely believe Clark Hunt is driven by winning and profits almost equally. But that family is so wealthy now, and nobody knows this. Clark Hunt is the wealthiest owner in the National Football League. He's got more money than all of them. This family is absolutely loaded. And he is maybe at this point the most powerful owner. You would think Jerry Jones or Robert Kraft or some of these other people. Not the case. They all look up to Clark Hunt, who graduated number 1 in his class at SMU in business school. He's running a beautiful business here. But for God's sake, just be honest. If you're going to do focus groups with your best fans, stop scaring the crap out of people. If you don't want to build a new stadium, if you're trying to put focus groups together and say, oh, you got great seats now, but we're moving you to the rafters if we build a new stadium, you have rigged the event before it started. Did you really want to go and ask them questions and learn, or have you decided and you're going to take the data that you get from these sessions and make it public and say, oh, they spoke loud and clear. They don't want a new stadium. They're not interested in that. Really? Because this guy's been a season ticket holder forever, and you just told him it's $3,000 per seat extra to keep it, and you're moving him upstairs into the rafters if there's a new stadium. That is a baked plan to have group sessions with your best fans. And it's not treating your customers very well. To be honest, that is not the way you do business. I've been in business a long time, and I'm not Clark Hunt. Maybe your business is too big and you don't know how the fans get treated at every level. I know you like to walk in the parking lot. There's a lot of really good redeeming things about the Hunt family. I'm not trashing them, but that's bad business. If you're gathering people up to scare the crap out of them and herd them up like Texas cattle and move them into one pen to put them in the truck and haul them off, if that's what you're doing with these group sessions, shame on you. It shouldn't be that way. This is Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled. You're on KCMO Talk Radio. Welcome back to Uncanceled. If you'd like to join us, 913-408-7957. That's 408-7957. We'll get to the phones in just a moment. Mark had a great take during the break. Says, what if they're asking these PSL questions and new stadium questions about where Kauffman Stadium is? They leave, they level that spot, and build a stadium there. And you make a good point that would be something you would charge the PSL for. But would you charge it in Kansas? Because you wouldn't have the financing in Missouri. Maybe the Chiefs are trying to find out, are people willing to pay the $3,000 a seat to build a new stadium in Missouri, which means our customers pay for it instead of the taxpayers, because they've hit nothing but roadblocks in the state of Missouri and Jackson County. There's no money. At this point, there is no money there. There's nothing for the Chiefs to build a new stadium there. There's nothing. We're talking about a couple $1 billion to build a new football stadium. It's not there. So if that's what these questions are about, and they're hearing from people, oh, we don't want to pay that PSL, and then they use that as their excuse to go to Kansas, I guess that's a different thing. Maybe they're trying to figure that out, and maybe that's what they're angling. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what they're doing. All right, we've got Joel on the line in Kansas City. He was at one of these group sessions with the Chiefs last night. Hey, Joel, how you doing?
Doing good, buddy. Hey, I'd like to say a long-time listener, first-time caller, but maybe the show's too new for that. But good to hear that you're uncanceled all the same.
Thank you.
So, I was a part of the deal last night, and I was also in that group with that was directed towards a new stadium discussion.
Okay.
In all fairness, the guys hosting the discussion had a really hard time. It probably took them 15 minutes to listen to us gripe about moving the stadium, or listen to those who didn't want the stadium being moved and wanted it to be renovated. So it took a while to get the actual discussion started. But regarding what you're saying, or what you read in that email, yes, that all that was accurate as far as how that went, and really at the end, it was just open. Folks could just say what they wanted, but there were times when they would go through the list or go around the room, maybe 8 or 10 people, and just said, what would you do? I mean, what would be your preference? And that was either on the open air or closed. How far would you drive, and any objection to it moving to Kansas, or absolutes in that regard. And but after that, it went to PSL, and it was, and a group of us talked afterwards. It really did feel like hey, if you don't want us to move, just know that this is the other option. And
okay, so you thought what they were saying was, if you want us to stay where we are, there's going to be a personal seat license, but we'll go to Kansas and there won't be?
No, they did not. They also went out of their way to say nothing has been decided.
Right, period. I know, but what was your impression? What matters was you were there. What did you think they were telling you? What with your money, what were they saying?
So the impression that I had, given the amount of time, they even broke out iPads that you would then type in your information and what you would be willing to spend. And the funny thing is, throughout the group, a lot of the people were very much interested in maintaining a seat, the equivalent of what they had.
Of course.
And in my situation, the PSL would be somewhere in the range of $15,000 to $20,000 per seat.
Jeez.
So when I said,
God.
Sure, I would. And they said, now this is based on, different markets.
No, that's up front. That's construction costs. It's one time. With 4 seats, you'd be in for $80,000. And they would let you finance this probably over several years, right? Yeah. If you wanted?
3 years interest free, or 5 to 10 years with some level of interest.
So $80,000, Joel, to keep your seats at a new stadium. Did you feel like they were talking about a stadium in Missouri or a stadium in Kansas? Because if they do that in Kansas, they're going to make a profit on building the stadium.
Precisely. They did an expert job of dissecting the conversation so that one did not bleed into the other.
Okay. So I've met you, Joel.
Conversation in a way. Yeah.
I know you. You're a smart guy. Let me see if I'm getting this right, because if so, Mark nailed it during the break when we were talking. Did you basically get the vibe from this thing that it is so expensive to stay in Missouri, we have to do the PSL, which means we have to charge our fans these huge dollars, or we can just move to Kansas?
100%.
Yeah.
Based on how the progression of the conversation went, and even the just how some of the other guys in the group, listening to how they talked about it as well, we all had that same consensus.
And how many people in the group are willing to pay the PSL?
I would say half the people in there didn't even take the iPad. It's
exactly.
Basically a sense of saying,
this thing's over, man. They're moving to Kansas. They're moving to Kansas, aren't they?
I would be shocked if they didn't at this point.
Yeah. I mean, no owners ever turned down 70% free for a brand new stadium. It's never happened.
Right. Exactly. And I can't even be mad at that. I could just be mad that if I'm charged $20,000 a seat, I mean,
right. But what if you get to keep your seats in Kansas? Did you feel like they were saying, hey, kind of, if we move to Kansas, you can stay where you are and not pay this?
They did not.
But did you feel that?
They did not.
Did you walk away thinking that?
You know, sadly, I didn't. I didn't walk away feeling that way.
How about right now?
I would have to be assigning good characteristics to the ownership, which I'm still willing to do, that they wouldn't be double dipping, taking 70% from the state and then
charging you,
ramming the fans for PSL, because I mean they're talking about in the main bowl area of turning that into a club section as well, club seating.
Sure.
And I did that like in Minnesota when I went there. It didn't feel right. The whole stadium gets chopped up and it turns very corporate. And I just don't see them doing that.
Awesome call, dude. You just heard Joel say he's going to have to cough up $80,000 personally himself to keep his seats, $80,000 to help the team build a new stadium. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, there's no way these fans are going to be on board with, oh, I can keep my seats if we move to Kansas and I don't have to pay anything extra, or I have to pay an 80,000 seat license to stay where I am in order for you to build a new stadium there in Missouri. You think the fans are going to go for that? It's the same thing as voting in Missouri. The people voting in Missouri didn't want to do it either. There's no money in Missouri. It is nut crunching time. They got to figure this thing out and figure it out fast. I am fascinated by this topic. Gosh, it's great to be back on live radio. This is fun. We got a hot topic today. If you'd like to chime in on this, the Chiefs' decision, what will they do after their focus groups last night with fans? 913-408-7957. Anybody that was there, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what you thought they were trying to say and find out. I would love to hear that information. In just a moment, we're going to hear from Stephen Miller. I got a cut you got to hear from this guy. He's unbelievable. First, another local story here on Uncanceled. From Mayor Q yesterday, they have awarded $200,000 in grants. Have you seen this? From the General Revenue Fund in Kansas City, Missouri. $200,000 in grants to 20 different restaurants in Kansas City, Missouri, to enhance their outdoor seating, their patio seating, or outdoor seating, or rooftop seating. This could be something as simple as new furniture for their patio or weatherizing, whatever it may be. Now, I'm all for outdoor patio seating. That's my favorite way to go out and eat. When the weather's nice, to be out there. I love a good outdoor space, especially with a view. A lot of places in Kansas City, Missouri wouldn't be my favorite place to dine outside on a busy street, but some people, it's their thing. Perfect. These projects have to be ready by 2025, and they picked 20 different restaurants, apparently, to give $10,000 to. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of the budget in Kansas City, Missouri. It's largely reported that it's not great, that there's a lot of things they can't afford to do. This was a COVID era thing they decided to do to try to help people, get outside because of COVID. If we eat outside, it'll be safer, but we'll still have plastic up. So that's when they decided to do this, and they've done that. Mayor Q says he wants to show appreciation for the resilience from the restaurant owners in Kansas City. Let me tell you what's going to do more for the restaurant owners in Kansas City, Missouri than this grant program of $200,000. No tax on tips. No tax on tips will do 100 times more for these restaurants than this little thing. And why the government is handing out cash to restaurant owners to buy patio furniture is beyond me. That's not the role of the government. It sounds nice. It's a good way to say thank you. I'd love to know how they decided which restaurants get it. but we probably won't get a lot of information on that. No tax on tips is great. It's the government staying out of the way of private business. And when the business owner doesn't have to pay the tip revenue to the employee as income, there's no tax on that. There's no payroll tax for the restaurant. There have been estimations that some restaurants will save 7% of their annual budget with no tax on tips. That's what it will save them. To not have to pay the employees the tip money, they just get to keep the tip money. And there's no tax for anyone on it. So a restaurant owner, let's say a restaurant did $1 million a year, that would be like a $70,000 kick to their bottom line to stay open, to be profitable, to pay a good bartender more money, to have a better chef, whatever may be the case. Or, this is a novel idea, expand their patio. Way to go, Mayor Q. Stephen Miller is one of my favorite people on earth. And there's a reason why Stephen Miller doesn't run for office. Stephen Miller is the guy, picture him, he's balding, he's got eyes that look a little bit like, Igor, like he should be in kind of a horror movie or something. And he's really intense, and he could never win office because he's a truth teller like Trump, but there is no normal guy side to him. Like everything Stephen Miller ever talks about is the end of the world. People on the left hate him. So he's the deputy chief of staff in charge of policy. So the chief of staff, Susie Wiles, I think is her name, she's going to be the person who implements everything. She's not really a policy person. She's logistics. She's going to make everything happen. She's the point person to execute what Trump wants to have done. Stephen Miller is the guy that he's listening to. He's the policy guy. And he was on Fox News last night, and this cut is just fabulous. They're showing video. Laura Ingram's showing video of these caravans coming north in Mexico. And we've got this deal where the president of Mexico's already told Trump, we're going to stop them at the border. We're not going to let them get there. It's all going to be good. And Trump's like, no, before January 20th, you're going to start stopping people or you've got problems on day one. And so here's Miller not only responding to what they expect Mexico to be doing right now to stop these people from coming north, but exactly what is going to happen. And this is as strong as it gets.
The president expects Mexico to fulfill the obligation it made to the United States to block the entry of all caravans into the United States. But everything in the world is going to change on January 20th. Because the president of the United States is going to use every single legal, diplomatic, and financial tool to halt the entry of all illegal aliens into this country. There will be no benefits, there will be no entry, there will be no asylum, there will be no admission. You may be prosecuted, you will certainly be arrested, and you will absolutely be deported. The entire world, Mexico, Northern Triangle, Central America, South America, Africa, Asia, the Middle East, will get this message. There is no unlawful route to enter the United States of America. Every presidential authority, including his absolute authority under Article 2 to defend the territorial sovereignty of the United States, will be used, from the Department of Defense to the Department of Justice to Homeland Security and every single other lawful authority at his disposal. It will be the end of the invasion. It will be the beginning of the liberation.
Oh, my God. I love Stephen Miller. I want to give him a hug, but I'm not sure he's ever allowed anybody to hug him. I mean, he's just that guy. He might give you a little fist bump or something. I mean, I'd like to buy him a cup of coffee, shake his hand, whatever. I don't think he wants it. That dude, you know what he wants? He wants one of those little fold-away beds in the Oval Office. And maybe like a little bowl of water and a sponge so he can just wipe down each day and put some, cologne on and never leave the Oval Office. Like, just stay there every day and move on to the next policy. And here's what we think we should do, Trump. Here's what I think. The best part is you don't want that guy as your president. That sounds like a guy that would get ticked off and grab the nuclear football, right? So what you want in the perfect setup, we've talked about Elon Musk and Vivek and Doge and all these other things. The perfect setup is that is the guy in Trump's ear. Here's how to do it. Trump decides what the right thing to do is, and then this guy says, here's how we're going to do it, and here's how we're going to promote it. We're going to do the right thing, and it's going to be strong, and it's going to be in their face, and nobody is going to mess with us. That's Stephen Miller. Folks, I want you to remember his name, and I know many of you in this audience know exactly who he is. It doesn't seem like a bold prediction to me at all, and I'm not even going to bet that he's going to make it 4 years, all right? Because they're going to come after – they're going to hate Stephen Miller more than Pete Hegseth or Matt Gaetz or any of them. the media, the people on the left. I think the best thing to do once this starts is Stephen Miller does the work and doesn't do any more interviews. Just stay out of the public eye. And then if they come after you, people are like, who? Huh? What? I'm not sure they will because Stephen Miller loves him a good interview and he loves defending Trump and he loves talking about policy. That guy, my prediction, I don't know how bold this is. My prediction is that is the second most powerful person in America. And I personally don't think it's close. It's supposed to be J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is great. And I'm sure they agree on a lot of policies. And I think Vance is going to be there. I think Vance is going to be a big part of this. I absolutely do. But I think the second most powerful person in America is going to be Stephen Miller. And you just heard it. I mean, this guy doesn't need notes. He knows every word in the Constitution. He knows the law. It's crazy. I got a little bit of a man crush on the guy. I'm sorry. Because we've been waiting our whole lives for somebody to get to D.C. and do the right thing. You know, Trump says, I don't do anything for politics. I just do the right thing. That's just kind of his thing. And it's so true. And if that's true with Trump, it's times 10 with Stephen Miller. He's just like, we're going to do something really good for America today. I know the law. We're going to do this legally. The laws are on the books. Like the laws are on the books that you can't come into the country. We keep forgetting the part that these are illegal aliens, or at least the Democrats do. They've already broken the law when they're here. And that's over. And you heard him say that very sternly. I love it. At the same time, it looks to me like Pete Hegseth is on the ropes. And I guess I like Pete Hegseth. I feel a little duped. You know, he was on Fox News and he's promoted as this patriot and very religious and talked about his kids and all this stuff. I didn't know he was 3 times married, that he was kind of a womanizer, and it sounds like for quite a while anyway, he was a bit of a party boy. I hope it's not from his service. It happens with service members a lot. He was in combat a couple of times. I think he's a good man. I think he's an unbelievable patriot, and I wish the very best for him. But I sense with some of these drinking stories and whatnot that are coming out that this is going to be hard, and there are now rumblings that Trump is considering putting Ron DeSantis in that spot for defense secretary instead of Pete Hegseth, making it basically an all-Florida all-star team. Like everybody who's anybody in Florida is getting their shot now. We could say Make America Florida again. We could make hats, MAFA, MAFA, whatever, but it's not really true. You're not making America Florida again. But Florida is what America was. And it's pretty clear that Trump's using that as a blueprint, which is very exciting. I don't have a prediction on Pete Hegseth. I think it's going to get too hot in the kitchen, and he's probably not going to be the guy, and Trump's going to move on, and I'd be fine with Ron DeSantis. I think they all want to do the same thing, so a lot of these things really aren't, too big about splitting hairs over, and so they probably won't. All right, we're due for a little break. If you want to join us, give me a call, 913-408-7957. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. Welcome back to Uncanceled. Great to have you with us today. Back to the phones we go, and Kevin is up first this segment, and Lee Summit. Good morning, Kevin. How are you today, sir?
Morning, Kevin. I'm doing great. Hey, Kevin, I was going to protest this time of Braves because I was going to miss him, but I'm glad I didn't. Love your show, man. You guys do a great job. I wanted to say I love Stephen Miller, man. That is Trump. Listening to him and taking his advice, the guy is spot on. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't have the personality for office, but he's great with he's a smart dude.
He is, and he's gonna give Trump all the information on every possible issue, and then Trump gets to make the decision. And that's the way a great CEO or president of the United States should do it. Surround yourself with the smartest people and be the person that's the realist, the one. And Trump is, for as much as he's blasted for being this, over the top, overbearing, Hitler, criminal, all these terrible things, he's pretty reasonable. In many ways, he's very reasonable. And I think some of the world leaders kind of know that. I think some of them know a little bit more of him and know that. He's a lot more reasonable than most of America thinks. And that's good. You want that in your president. You don't want somebody with a hot temper.
Absolutely. No, I think everybody had Trump all wrong. He's very human. He's so relatable. I'm just a common guy. I drive a truck. He's Trump. He made all of his money. He made all of his fortune. He loves this country. Why else would he have risked all this just to do this? He's a really relatable guy. And you're right. He surrounds himself. He's a smart dude. He's smart enough to know to surround himself with smart people.
Man, other than sports, I think playing sports as a kid is a really valuable thing, or as a young person is really valuable. What's better than being around a job site? And this man was around a job site a lot. I did that a lot. My dad was in construction, And about the time I was 14 or 15, he had me like watching concrete dry, but I was around these workers and men who were like working for a living. Then I worked at the water company and did a bunch of stuff there and was on the job site every day. It lasted for years. And being around job sites or being part of a team is huge. Trump didn't sit in an ivory tower and make every decision for the Trump organization. He visited job sites every day, all the time, and was around the people there doing the work. And I think that has served him so well as president.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Kev. Great to have you on.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the kind words and appreciate you listening every day. And we miss Ray as well. He did such a great job here at Talk Radio KCMO. And Chris Stegall. I got big shoes to fill. We'll give it a shot. We'll give it a try and see what we can do here. We will. How about this? We talked earlier about the college football playoff. I don't know how many people are that into it as our 3 local teams didn't make it and aren't going to make it. Missouri came oh so close. If they held on against South Carolina with 1:10 to go, they'd be in. They'd be in. We've got these teams that aren't playing this week that look like they're in. I'm not going to freak out about the committee yet and what they're going to do because it isn't decided. So Alabama looks like they're in now with their 3 losses, and they don't play this week.
I can't believe that.
And if they played this week, they'd lose.
Yeah.
We all agree with that, right?
Yeah.
That'd be a 4th loss. Mm-hmm. So I don't think they're going to make it, but we'll see what happens. There's also Ohio State not playing this week, who lost at home to a bad Michigan team last week. And if they played this week, they would lose. They'd lose to Oregon, and they'd have 2 losses, and they'd get bumped back. They'd probably still be in the playoff, but my goodness, rolling in with 2 losses is weird. So we're seeing these teams that aren't playing. Miami is out. They're 1 spot out right now. I don't think they belong. They're not very good at all, I don't think. The Big 12 is just getting embarrassed in this thing and kicked to the curb. It looks like the team that wins the Big 12 will be the 12 seed out of 12 teams. But get this. What's happening this weekend? Mark, you're going to love this. In the Big 10, Oregon plays Penn State this Saturday. Did you know you can go online right now and buy a ticket for $12?
Really?
Nobody wants to go.
Huh.
The playoffs are coming.
That's true.
These teams are in the play. These teams are all in the playoff. These games don't matter. Do you rest players? What do you do?
Yeah, their fan base is, I think Oregon wants to buy, so they should go all out. But
okay.
I don't know. The fans don't want to travel there, though, because they want to go to the playoff
I
game.
bet Oregon could rest 10 key players and beat Penn State.
That's true.
I don't know. I mean, how much does it mean to Texas in their first year in the SEC to go win it? Maybe they care more than Georgia. I'm not sure I know, but we could see some really lopsided games in these title games, and we're seeing places where they're just giving away seats, which is not great for college football, but it's here. I want to welcome a couple people to my bandwagon that think Joe Biden should pardon Donald Trump. On News Nation last night, Chris Cuomo has a show, and Stephen A. Smith was on as his guest, and they were talking about this, and Cuomo says, I think maybe it'd be a good idea if Joe Biden would just go ahead and pardon Trump now. We could put this whole era behind us. And Stephen A.'s like, oh, that's a great idea. And they just started riffing and talking about this. It is a great idea. If you want some progress in America, right now, it's time for everyone, even on the left, to bow down to Donald Trump and let him do his thing. If it fails, it fails. But America has spoken. We don't like what we've had since Obama took over. And this was Obama's America since 2008. There is no questioning that. This has been Barack Obama's America since 2008. We had 4 years of Trump in there, but he did some good things, but he was handcuffed the entire time. Obama did that to him. Well, it's role reversal now. And it would be a good thing for Joe Biden. And they might repair their brand a little bit. You want to talk about a damaged brand? The Democrat Party is, other than I remember years ago, Tylenol was making people sick or something. They had something in it. Sometimes a product will come out. Toyota, I think, had a brakes problem or an airbag problem one time, and their sales went down. Other than manufacturers having problems with a product, I don't remember a damaged brand worse than the Democrat Party right now. Even if you're a Democrat, you're looking at it. They're all saying the same thing. We're damaged. We got to fix this. Well, one great way to fix it is to leave Trump alone. Let him go and look like you play the game fair. And that, because 4 years from now, 3.5 years from now, we're going to be right in the heart of a campaign again. And if you want people to look at your candidate and your candidates across the country as something that maybe they wouldn't consider today, it starts with, the olive branch, reaching out. And Joe Biden doesn't care. The rest of the party's thrown him down the drain anyway. They've kicked him to the curb. He might be able, I've said his legacy is a steaming pile of poo. He's going down as one of the worst presidents in history. Everybody agrees with that. Well, if he pardons Trump, does it soften that a little bit? Does it change just a little bit, maybe, about what people think about him? The latest athlete to do the Trump dance is golfer Sergio Garcia. It's circulating around the internet. He played in a tournament over the weekend and, I don't know, made a shot, did something cool, and started into the Trump dance. We're seeing this everywhere. Athletes are doing it all over the place. It's cool. I was once referred to by my wife. Well, Sergio was referred to as Skinny Kev. She thought I looked like him, but I was big. And I've seen I've lost some weight, but I can't believe what I looked like 10 years ago. It's ridiculous. So I'm very pleased with that. But I wear glasses now, and Sergio doesn't. So maybe, I don't know, he's Skinny Kev, whatever. And then, Mark, I'll bring you in here at the close because I heard, I know you got 3 kids at home. You got a bouncing baby. John's got some little bitty grandkids. Pete's got 3 little kids at home. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm an empty nester, Y'all are going to bring all those sicknesses in here. Because somebody was making a joke about that. Was John making a joke about that or Pete?
Oh,
yeah.
All
right. So now if I was a typical liberal, I have my mask on right now broadcasting. I'd be leaving, now that I found this out, that there's all these little snot-nosed running kids running around with everybody I work with, which I love, by the way. I'm so jealous. I want grandkids. I'd be going to CVS, getting my flu shot, getting my COVID shot, all these other things. Can you imagine? There are literally people that get triggered by this. Oh, my God, I'm in a workplace with people who have little children. How can I make it? I'm not that guy. You bring in all they got, Mark. Everything that little baby's got, you bring it right on in here. Let's see what happens.
I was going to say, we got hand sanitizer everywhere if you need it.
Don't need it. I'll be fine. I'll wash when I go to the bathroom. I'll be just fine. I've never worried about that. It was so funny, in the workplace all through the years, we saw so many people that were typically sicker at work than other people. And they were always the people getting all the medication. Every shot, everything, every whatever. I'm like, I think maybe we learned something during COVID. It's possible. I feel good about this, man. I'm having fun doing this. I can't thank you enough for calling in and all of your words of support. It is called Uncanceled, and we're here every day at 10 o'clock. We're going to try to bring something topical every day that you're interested in, that you want to talk about. I really, really, really want to hear from you. That was fun talking about the Chiefs today. Tell your friends about the program. Appreciate you being here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 for Uncanceled.